Yes, Lucy, please come in. You mentioned to my secretary that you wanted to speak with me tonight. Yes. Yes, please have a seat. I hope everything is okay. Well, considering it's you, if there's something that is troubling you or upsetting you, I want to keep it from becoming a huge issue. What's the problem? Mm-hmm. 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 I see. Yes, I can see how that would be a huge problem. Lucy, please, don't get upset. This is workable. I had no idea that switching all of the standard issue flashlights for the maintenance staff and the security officers here at the asylum would cause such a problem for you. Clearly you didn't either until the incident last night. Yes. Well, thankfully, Carl doesn't remember what happened, so that bit of hypnosis on your part thankfully worked. Well, you can't blame him. He was just doing his job. He was patrolling the grounds. He heard something outside. Sounded like a person. And Carl works third shift. So he was worried that perhaps one of the patients had gotten out. So he took his brand new LED emergency flashlight, which the security staff uses as a standard flashlight, and he shined it in the direction where he heard the noise. And that was when you found out that this is not something you want to be blasted in the face with, because apparently LED flashlights cause your eyes to turn red, and I can see how that would be a problem, especially for a vampire such as yourself. Yes. Well, hold on, Lucy. Please don't get upset. After all, I also suspected that something was wrong. Very few of the staff members at the asylum choose to take advantage of the quarters that are set aside for live-in employees. Very few. And you've lived here the longest. Usually the employees will use the quarters as temporary places if they need to find a new apartment, or if their apartment is being fumigated, or a number of reasons why they need to temporarily stay somewhere else. But you've basically lived here the entire time you've worked here. And let's face it, you've left clues that you've worked here for the past 60 years and haven't aged a day. Well, they're very subtle clues, but you have left them behind. Someone with an inquisitive mind would have found out eventually. Most likely I would have found out, let's be honest. So I can understand why you're upset. But please remember, the staff and the security officers, who are all in-house employees, we don't outsource, they need equipment. Especially maintenance and security, they need flashlights, and I'm sorry, but the incandescent flashlights they've been using, they're over 30 years old, and they were starting to wear out, so I was able to speak with the committee, and I got them to approve replacement flashlights. And yes, I went with new technology LED flashlights. Well, they're not really new. They've been around for decades now. Effective, efficient ones. They've been around for a long time. Longer battery life, ability to use rechargeable batteries, much more impressive output and runtime. So I went with the upgrade. Now I'm sorry, Lucy, I had no clue, and you had no clue, that the new LED lights, when shined into your eyes, and I'm assuming any vampire's eyes, will cause them to glow red. I mean, it must have been quite a start. And I'm sorry about that. I do appreciate the fact that you didn't hurt poor Carl. I mean, he was just doing his job patrolling the grounds with his brand new standard issue LED flashlight. Lucy, this is something that can be worked out. You did the right thing by telling me who you actually are. I mean, let's face it, everyone thinks you're a fictional character. Everyone thinks you were killed off in the novel Bram Stoker's Dracula. I mean, just imagine how mind-blowing it would be if the world found out that story was mostly true. Some parts of it exaggerated, certain details left out, such as the fact that you survived. I mean, you have to admit, that is a pretty fantastic tale. You actually survived all these decades upon decades, growing stronger, more intelligent. Even a being as intelligent as you can slip up, and you had no way of knowing that LED flashlights, when shined in your face or any vampire's face, will cause their eyes to glow red and give them away. Now, like I said, Carl is all right. That was a pretty nasty bump on his head. But he doesn't remember what happened. I convinced him that the reason why he doesn't remember is that bump on his head. Thank you for not killing him. Thank you for not hurting him too badly. He genuinely doesn't remember. I mean, apparently when you knocked him out, he woke up about a minute later and you immediately hypnotized him. Well, it worked. He has no clue what happened. None. So Carl, he's not a threat to you. He's not gonna expose you. It's okay. Look, I get it. You don't want to hurt anyone. In the novel, you were portrayed as an absolutely vicious, horrendous monster. And I'm sorry that happened to you. An innocent woman turned into a monster. Well, you were turned into a vampire, although not a monster. I know you don't want to hurt anyone. Quite frankly, it's a genius idea. Work as a cook at various asylums. Try to live on the grounds or nearby, and then at night you feed off of different patients. And if anyone notices or starts screaming about vampires, well, who's gonna believe them? They're insane. And in the morning, you cook their meals, you take care of them. I mean, your saliva has healing properties which are absolutely amazing. So, each night you go into a different patient's room. You drain them of about a pint of blood, maybe a little more, and then you seal the bite marks with your saliva. The patient remembers nothing. They just go back to sleep if they did wake up. And that way you're able to have what you need. You're able to have your blood. You're able to survive without having to kill anyone. And like I said, if someone notices you, well, who's gonna believe a patient in an insane asylum? Plus, I've seen the way you feed and help the patients. They definitely get a lot from you than what you take from them. I mean, I still remember 6 months ago when we were very low on funding, when we were very low on food. I did recognize that stew that you made. Very cheap, very filling. The ingredients: elbow macaroni, diced tomatoes, beans, the few other ingredients. My grandmother had a lot of that stew back during the Great Depression when she was a younger woman. Ate a lot of it, along with a lot of other individuals. Charities would make that stew. It was called Hoover stew, named after the president and his miserable job of letting the country down. Maybe it wasn't entirely his fault, but I was amazed that a young woman such as yourself, or one who definitely looks young — I didn't know you were a vampire back then. I'm glad you eventually trusted me with your secret. I guess you didn't think anyone would be old enough to recognize that what you made was Hoover stew, a very popular dish back during the Great Depression, fed a lot of people. 47 cents a meal. Yeah, that's what it would translate today. 47 cents per meal. I must admit, very impressed. Look, you're a very warm, caring, kind-hearted vampire with, all due respect, a bit of a temper. Now, I'm glad you didn't hurt Carl too badly. Listen, this is not as big an issue as you think it is. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pull all of these LED flashlights. I'm gonna get rid of them. I'll give them away to different charities. I'll give them away to friends. I'll probably just put one in my house. They're pretty good flashlights, but I'm gonna replace all of them with incandescent flashlights. I'll spend my own money doing it. The committee will never know. And that way, maintenance and security will have their new flashlights, but they will be incandescent flashlights again. No, it's not a problem. There are companies out there that still make incandescent lights. I will fix this. All right. It was good talking